Baku-Khankendi moving ahead.
Good morning, everybody, from Azerbaijan, where we have a 5-day stage race. Not a new race, it's a race that was already in existence just under 10 years ago. It's called the Baku-Khankendi stage race, and we are going to discover a new country in Azerbaijan. Luckily, I've got many historical, cultural facts for you ready to discover this country together for the next 5 mornings. And here we are with stage number 1 from Baku to Sumqayit, 158.9 kilometers. And then we move on to stage number 2, start also in Baku, finish in Ismaili. Stage 3 brings us to Gabala to Minchachevir. Stage 4 to Ganya, to Naftalan, and then stage 5 with a challenging finale with the start in Tartar brings us to Khankendi on Tuesday. We've got something for everybody. We've got sprinter stages, we've got medium mountain stages, and also high mountain stages for the riders to enjoy. But we start on the shores of the Caspian Sea today with the flattest stage of the 5. Look at the beautiful colors there.
Bueno, hemos estado estudiando un poco Azerbaiyán, sabemos que hace años que no se hacía la carrera. He preguntado a antiguos compañeros ciclistas que me han hablado todos muy bien, el recorrido con repechos, con media montaña, seguramente que difícil, con viento a veces en etapas, un poco capitán del equipo para organizar, pero en ciertos momentos también tengo, hoy me siento físicamente bien para poder estar ahí.
That he's asked former teammates who knows this race, and it's a race that has short climbs, middle mountains, could be windy, and he serves as a team captain. And we're listening to Urko Berare.
And in the end, it could be difficult to get them back.
Who says that it's only 6-man teams, and
you can look
it
at the race book or look at the profile,
Aaron
but
Gates.
until you actually get on the road and see it, it's a new race for us, so we don't really know what the best way to approach it yet, and we'll just have to play it a little bit as we go. And communication in these races is also key to make sure that everybody is on the same page and that we get the job done.
And then we've got one more interview for you, and that is the national champion.
It's great to see the Tour de Azerbaijan cycling race return to the calendar. My ambition is to show good results, to be top 10 and show amazing results.
Yes, we will not only get to know a new country, but also a lot of riders that we don't often see on our television screens. And hopefully some of these riders will have a breakthrough performance that catapults their careers to a more regular stream of races. Today's stage, 2 sprints, one at the Dreamland Golf Resort and one at the Victory Park. One third category climb, Badam Dar, and then we make our way back to Baku. We start in Baku, I should say, and finish on the Caspian Sea in Sumqayit. And that is today's course, and we started rather early as we look at Flag Square there in Baku. A very modern city with absolutely beautiful architecture. A country, of course, that exports a lot of oil, petrochemicals, and that brought a lot of wealth to the country. Very wide boulevards. It's, of course, it's an ancient city, but it has been expanded quite a lot in recent years with absolutely stunning architecture. I like it a lot, these kind of modern buildings. We've got the horses, of course. Azerbaijan known for its own breed of horses that back in the day could absolutely rival with the thoroughbreds from Arabia. Seabreeze is the, well, village resort, huge compound that serves as the race headquarters and also the start of today's stage. And there is the flag again of Azerbaijan, and they're proud of it. We will see the flag a lot this week. One of the 42 nationalities that we have at the start line of this Baku-Khankendi Azerbaijan race. We have a few teams that we're a little bit more familiar with, including one World Tour team, XTS Astana. We've got national teams of Azerbaijan with their national champion, Musa Mikiliadze. We saw him in the intro clip a little while ago. And then an early start for the riders and an even earlier breakfast. At 6 o'clock this morning, there was breakfast served for the riders to make sure that they were ready for the first stage ahead. Out of Seabreeze into this U-turn behind the car of the commissaire. 139 starters. We've got 24 teams of 6 riders each. And we already heard that Urko Berade, stage winner, of course, in the Vuelta in the past, said that it might be difficult to control with such a small group of riders. This is the temperature. It's a lovely 23 degrees Celsius, hardly any wind to speak of. And this is where we are now. We are on the one climb that we have today, meaning that the rider who crosses that virtual line on this very wide road in first place will get the mountain jersey. This is the Baku-Khankendi Azerbaijan cycling race, edition number 7. The last time we raced here in Azerbaijan was actually in 2017, but they managed to revive the race. And this is stage 1 with a breakaway of 4 riders. In first place in the dark coloured jersey, Eduardo Perez Landaluze. In the red of the Mazovshe-Sersky Polski team is Xavier Garnek. In last wheel of the Mugla team, no, not in last wheel, in the white of the Mugla team, we have Turkish rider Mehmet Kanat, and in the yellow and black of Tartoletu Isorex, Jorben Laurijse, the cyclocross man who was so successful recently in the Tour of Algeria. The first sprint at the golf park was won by Laurijse ahead of Garnek. The second sprint at the Victory Park in Baku was won by the Polish rider, meaning that they are now both at 8 points for the points classification. Doesn't really matter because the winner of today's stage gets 35 points. So those 8 points held by Laurijse and Garnek at the moment will not really get them that far. New jerseys at the front. This is the Li Ning Star team, a Chinese team with very colourful jersey. As said, we are going to meet some new teams, well, teams that have been around. They've not been established for this race, of course, but teams that we don't know that well just yet, and riders that we also do not know that well. But we'll get to know them, we'll get to know the country, we'll get to know the teams. It's going to be a good 5 days. Leading star is the team of Scotsman Callum Johnston, and Johnston comes off some good success recently in a race in Uzbekistan, where he won the general classification. This is that sprint for the mountain jersey. We can see the sign there just around the corner, and it's the man from Spain, from Oviedo, all the way up north, Eduardo Perez Landaluce of the Obidos team, the 28-year-old who goes for the points. Larissa is going to counter him, of course. Larissa wants those points, but most definitely wants the jersey. It might be a little bit too late by the Belgian, or is he going to pip him on the virtual line? It's hard to see from here, but it might be that the Belgian just took it. Seeing it from behind is a little bit more difficult to judge, but Larissa most definitely went for it, and hopefully for him gets that jersey around his shoulders. That means that we are already in the last hour of this race. It didn't take all that much time for this breakaway of 4 riders to establish. It's the flatter stage of the week. There's hardly a meter of elevation as we cruise around the really wide roads of Baku. We can see the flag towers there in the background. And we're making our way to Sumqayit. Sumqayit is a town also on the Caspian Sea. Let's see if we can watch that sprint again. This is the first attack at 500 meters to go by Perez Landaluce. Larissa in the yellow and black of Tartoletto Userex in pursuit. But we'll wait for official confirmation who has got the mountain jersey. Whether Larissa has timed it good, has timed it well. It's hard to see from this point, really. I think he does have it, yes. There was a commissaire on site, so they will know, but yeah, having a sprint from behind is always a little bit challenging, of course. Here we are with our 2-man at the front. In the black of the Obidos cycling team is Eduardo Perez Landaluce. And on the grey giant bike is Jorbe Larissa, a man, of course, we know from cyclocross, a regular in the top 10. And for those of you who have watched the Hope Series cyclocross in the UK this winter, Jorben was also racing there early season to, of course, get those very important points. He races for the Paul Sausen team, by the way. And on the road, he's part of Tartoletto Userex. And as I said, he was very successful in the Tour of Algeria. There's a team that travels the world, so to say. The Tartoletto Userex team, we saw them last week in the Tour of Turkey as well. But Jorbe Larissa won no less than 3 stages in the Tour of Algeria that took place from the 17th to the 26th of April. He's been racing in Turkey, racing in Belgium, of course, racing in the Netherlands, and also racing the first edition of the Pune Grand Tour, where he was a 3rd on a GC. The man on his wheel, the Spanish rider, is slightly older. He is 28 years young. Started his career with the teams of Alberto Contador, as we have a little bit of a counter-attack from the bunch with the Medellin team. Team, of course, from Colombia, the team of Oscar Sevilla. And Oscar Sevilla, I looked it up. Of course, our friends at Pro Cycling Stats have all these stats ready. 49 years of age and 222 days. Oscar Sevilla will celebrate his 50th birthday while still being a professional rider. And yeah, if you look at the stats of Oscar Sevilla, we go back to the start of his career with Kelme Costa Blanca in 1998. rode 13 Grand Tours, Oscar Sevilla did. And his best result was a second place in the GC of the Vuelta in 2001. But he's still racing, and now with the team from Medellin, the team from Colombia. And I think that is the City team on his wheel, a team from Algeria. Only 4 riders started for that team, but they attacked from the peloton. No more points for the KOM available, but just to spice it up a little bit. We have official confirmation of the King of the Mountain sprint. That was won by Jorben Laurijsen. So he will have a trip to the podium, the Belgian rider, to pick up the mountain jersey. We've got 4 jerseys here, of course, a leader's jersey. We've got a points jersey, a King of the Mountains, and a best young rider jersey for all of those riders born after the 1st of January 2004. So riders under 23. Here's Brian Sanchez, a fast man of the Medellin team, a sprinter type. If you look at the composition of the team from Medellin, from Colombia, that is, we see quite a few riders with history in the World Tour. Of course, the aforementioned Oscar Sevilla was in the World Tour when it was not even called the World Tour. That's how old he actually is, with all due respect. But yeah, guys like Brian Sanchez have got ample experience racing around the world. Diego Camargo, part of the World Tour team of EF Education in the past. But it's not a super inspiring stage today in terms of landscapes. We're just racing on the ring road around Baku, which is of course the capital city of the country. Baku has got a population of 2.3 million. I think just over 10 million in the entire country of Azerbaijan, if I remembered correctly. And 1/4 of the population actually lives here in the capital city. You can see that all the teams have got cars, vehicles from the organization. Of course, you can't take your own cars and buses to a race in Azerbaijan, just like we saw last week in Turkey. So you get cars from the organizers. Good to see that it's all electric vehicles. Country that, of course, made a lot of money in the petrochemical industry is now also very actively involved in sustainable energy, including the use, of course, of electric vehicles. A breakaway of 4 is now down to 2 riders, with just under 35 kilometers to go. Here's one of our counter-attackers, Brian Sanchez. "34 kilometers left to do in this first stage of the Baku-Khankendi Azerbaijan cycling race. 5 days of racing every morning at 9 or 10 continental time. There's 3 hours between London time, or Greenwich time I should say, and Baku at the moment, meaning that the riders had to get up very early to get these early stages out of the way to enable us to watch them at breakfast. Hope you have a good breakfast, some good coffee with that as well. And yeah, go straight on to the Giro d'Italia after this. We also have one of the finest races in France coming up later this afternoon, the Trop-Lyon, and of course we've got gravel for you to enjoy, the Mali Gravel, the World Gravel Series. So lots of racing today to enjoy, but this is the first one of the day, the Baku-Khankendi Azerbaijan cycling race, edition number 7. The last edition took place in 2017 when it was Kirill Potsniakov of the Synergy Baku cycling project who won the overall classification. A certain Primož Roglič got his first professional win here in this race. That was fresh off his ski jumping days. And if we scroll through, we see some other famous names. 2015 GC, for example, here in Azerbaijan. Primož Roglič ahead of Jasper Oeglund. We will probably see him in the gravel race, Mali Gravel, later on today. Mugerli in the top 10. We find a certain Chris Horner, for example. Josh Edmondson was out there as well. So yeah, it's a nice mixed bag of riders who went to the absolute top of their trade, like Primož Roglič in his early career. And hopefully for some of these riders, this race is also going to be a stepping stone to bigger teams and bigger races. It's 23 degrees Celsius, more or less, which translates into lower 70s Fahrenheit. But you can see the minerals, the deposition there on the jersey of our Spanish rider. It happens when you sweat, of course. The minerals also, yeah, end up on your jersey. We see that in Spanish races, in very hot summer races in general. And it also happens here with the Spanish rider, who is originally from the north of the country, from Oviedo, which is an absolutely beautiful place in Asturias, where we just finished off the Vuelta Femenina. What a fantastic, fantastic start to the Grand Tour season that was, with the 2 grueling mountain stages that we had, the sprints that we saw, also the heartbreaking crashes of Noemi Ruek, for example. But yeah, an absolute formidable week of racing just finished in the Vuelta Femenina. And it won't be long until we start the Giro d'Italia for women as well, straight after the Giro d'Italia for men. Later today, of course, stage number 3 in Bulgaria, the last stage in Bulgaria. Tomorrow is a rest day for the riders in the Giro d'Italia. It's, yeah, it's most likely going to be a sprint stage, although there is a gnarly little climb right in the middle. But most of the sprinters should not be too impressed by that, in my opinion. Hopefully it will be a rather uneventful day for the riders in Bulgaria, as we have seen our fair share of crashes so far. One World Tour team at the start, and that is XDS Astana with Aaron Gate, Yevgeny Fedorov, the continental champion, Henok Mulu Baran, Gleb Syriza, Ramis Din Mukametov, and Aliser Zumakan. That is a challenging one. It's going to be a lot of challenging names this week, I can tell you that, but I'm up for the challenge. We see Brian Sanchez reaching the 2 other riders of our breakaway, trying to get into the slipstream of that motorbike just a little bit. And the man from Turkey, Mehmet Kanat, trying to get onto the wheel there of the man from Colombia. And the same goes for our Polish rider, Xavier Garnek. So the situation with 31 kilometers to go. 2 of our original breakaway of 4 are at the front, with Eduardo Perez Landaluze and Jorben Laurijsen, who just picked up the points for the King of the Mountains. Then about 45 seconds back, we have this trio of Garnek, Kanat and Sanchez. and about 1:30 back is the peloton. So they are bang in the middle between our two leaders and the peloton. So an interesting move by Brian Sanchez. He's got a good pace. He's just soldiering on. The other two will be passengers, because what can you do? Brian Sanchez is 31, actually born in Medellin, has been part of this team for quite some time. There was a short stint that he was part of the American Holo Wesco team, but most of his days were actually in Colombian teams. The last race he raced was the Tour of the Gila in New Mexico, where he was 10th on GC. Was a good little outing altogether for Team Medellin, with Diego Camargo being 3rd in the general classification. Camargo also here, and it's always a challenging race there in New Mexico. So some riders on good form that we can expect here in the Tour of Azerbaijan. Our three counter-attackers almost caught by the peloton. We have a little bit of elevation today, but hardly anything to be impressed by. Total of 800 meters of climbing over the 160 odd kilometers that we have today, as we make our way to Sumkayit, a town that was mostly a sparsely populated steppe area near the Caspian Sea, until they found oil. And the Soviet Union, because Azerbaijan was part of the Soviet Union, I'll get into that history a little bit later, for quite some time, until of course all these states became independent in the early 90s. And this was a hub for chemical production, metals, petrochemicals, and they really had a planned migration system for workers from other countries in the USSR going to Azerbaijan, to Sumkayit, to make that industry work. And yeah, that's how the city really grew. Of course, the industry that I mentioned, like chemical, petrochemical, metallurgy, is not the cleanest form of industry. So soon enough, it became one of the most polluted cities in the entire Soviet Union. Luckily, they have they are now trying to clean it up, really investing in modern infrastructure, in modern industry, and creating new residential areas. So that is a town where we have our finish today in 29 kilometers. The moment that our three counter-attackers, two of the original breakaway with Garnek and Kanat, and one counter-attacker in Brian Sanchez, caught by the peloton, led by XTS Astana. We also recognize the jerseys there of Burgos Burpelet and the red jerseys of the Li Ning Star team, a team that's very active at the front. XTS Astana racing with a fast Gleb Syriza, but also Aaron Gate. And if we look at the GC, we're thinking about Henok Mulu-Beran as one of the big favorites for this week's GC, but also Camille Bonneau, who was 3rd in the Presidential Cycling Tour of Turkey only last week, is a rider to look out for, of the Solution Tech Nippo Rally team. One World Tour team with Kazakhstan at the front. They're two young Kazakh riders doing the work at the moment with Din Mukametov and Zumakan. 4 pro teams, second division teams with Equipoken Pharma, Bardiani, CSF, 7 Sabre, Burgos Pellets and Solution Tech, Nippo Rally, and then a whole array of third division teams, continental teams as they're called, and 1 national team, 2 national teams in Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan. This is a list of the former winners with a few riders that we know. And the first edition, Yusuf Rigigi, is still racing today. So 14 years after he won this race, the man from Algeria is back in Azerbaijan. Pace is up right now in the peloton in pursuit of these 2 riders, the last 2 remaining riders of our breakaway today. Jorbe Laurijsen, the 24-year-old from Belgium at the front, representing Tarteletto Isorex. And on his wheel is a 28-year-old rider from Spain, Eduardo Perez Landaluce, representing the Portuguese team of Obidos. Laurijsen already secured himself the mountain jersey, so trip to the podium and a new jersey for him tomorrow. This is by far the easiest stage that we have this week. Tomorrow we add a little bit of elevation as we start in Baku again in the Sea Breeze Hotel compound. But we have a few gnarly climbs and we finish at a plateau of around 600 meters above sea level. Hopefully the scenery will be a little bit more inspiring than what we see today. Stage 3 has got a punchy start, but a flat finale. And then on stage 4, we've got a difficult climb coming up at 29 kilometers from the line. And the final stage is going to be the Queen stage as we make our way to Khankendi. This is a little highlights reel of Baku, the capital city of Azerbaijan. Almost 1/4 of the population of this country lives in the capital city. The name Baku comes from the old word Baka, a Persian word, Old Persian, and it actually means God. If you know Sanskrit, I don't know. They also have the word Baga. There's a whole lot of other stories about the origins of the name of Baku, but they're not really founded all that much in science. The most likely etymology is most likely the Old Persian word of Baka. We're all the way at the eastern tip of the country, on the Caspian Sea. And the pace is very high at the moment by the leading star team. Alexei Shnirko is a 31-year-old rider of the leading star team. That is the team currently at the front of the bunch. Has been successful in the Tour of Bostonlik in Uzbekistan. Won a stage there. The other stage was won by Callum Johnston, his teammate. And the GC was also for the Scot, representing this Chinese team. But they have a lot of confidence in this rider, who also won a stage in the Tour of Antalya. The rider from Belarus, who, after the decision by the IOC, can now compete under their own flag again. Russian athletes still have to use a neutral flag, but for Belarus, the flag has been reinstated, and that also goes for Alexei Shnirko. And then on their wheel we find the team of Burgos Burpelet, top 3 place for their Mexican rider in Tour of Turkey, but today they're racing with the very international team at Burgos. I think Macias was actually on the provisional list, but he's not anymore. It's Fakundes on the start list for the Burgos Burpelet team. Fakundes, of course, a rider from Uruguay, and they are on a lucky streak, so who knows what he can do. Was already podium place for him in the 3rd stage of O Gran Camino for Fakundes. So that's an interesting rider of the Burgos Burpelet team. We have Mauritian rider Alexander Mayer coming from the African races of Tour de Benin, where he was 2nd on GC, and a one-day race on Mauritius itself. They're also racing with the Mongolian rider Jambalyan Sambayar, who was, of course, in the breakaway in the Tour of Flanders, which was absolutely fantastic. He comes of racing Liège and the Tour of Hainan. Martin Rey of Burgos Burpelet was also part of Liège, and then another Spaniard, Carlos Garcia Pierna. Some good results in Asturias, and the last rider is Josh Burnett, the New Zealand rider of the Burgos Burpelet team. Very well-rounded squad, and Burgos Burpelet is a team that are racing a lot of these races in Asia, because there's a lot of points involved. If you score points, for example, in the Tour of Hainan, it's the same number of points as you get in the Tour of Turkey, the same number of points as you get in Tour of Belgium, 4 days at Dunkirk. It was won by, well, we know him very well now, Thomas Silva, the man who won the stage yesterday in the Giro. So those are important points for the Spanish teams in this case, and also we have 2 Italian teams in Bardiani and Solution Tech Nippo Rally, and they all have to be in the top 30 of the UCI ranking at the end of this year to be eligible again for a wild card for a Grand Tour. We see Bardiani, of course, in the Giro at the moment, and both Equipo Ken Pharma and Burgos Burpelet will be racing the Vuelta at the end of this season. And Solution Tech Nippo Rally, despite racing all over the world and trying to get the points with the likes of Dusan Rajovic, for example, did not manage to finish in the top 30 of the UCI teams ranking, and therefore were not even eligible to be invited for a wild card in the Giro d'Italia, of course, a race that they really want to be part of. They have a good squad here for Solution Tech Nippo Rally. I already mentioned Camille Bonneau, who was a 3rd on GC. He's a good climber. We don't have a typical mountaintop finish this week, but the final stage does offer quite a few meters of elevation and an uphill finale of 3 kilometers, 5%. Nothing like what we saw in Turkey last week. So it's quite an open race. There's many riders who could do well on GC in this race, and we're just going to discover it together. Equipo Ken Pharma also well in position there in that green jersey. One of the big favourites in their ranks for the GC is Urko Berade. Same goes for Diego Uriarte when you go to the GC. This is our man from Belarus. He's most definitely got the sprinter physique there, Alexei Shnirko. And his teammates most definitely have confidence in him. We also see a rider on that team that we know, of course, from gravel and from Tudor, and of course for being a very friendly rider, Simon Pelot. The gap has dropped to 30 seconds only for our riders. And if we look at the road book to date, we see that there's just not a lot of obstacles left on the road. It's completely flat today. If we look at the final of today's stage, as we make our way to Sumqayit. We have a few corners in the final few kilometers. One at 5K to go, one at 4K to go, then a straight line well up until about 350 meters to go, and then a right-hander into the finish area on the city square of Sumqayit, just outside of the Arablinski Musical Drama Theatre. Azerbaijan, one-time winners of the Eurovision Song Contest with the song Running Scared, 2011, if I recall correctly. And of course, then in 2012, the Eurovision Song Contest was actually in Baku. The two young Kazakh riders are part of the development team of XDS Astana. Ramis Dinmukametov hasn't raced all that much this year. The man currently at the front of the bunch, he's 25, has only raced 2 days at the end of February and the beginning of March. And the other, Alisher Sumakan, is a 29-year-old. Also part of the XDS Astana development team. So not the traditional riders you expect to be on a development squad. But if you look at the main team of XDS Astana, you know that there's not a lot of riders from Kazakhstan left on the team. Nikola Virukorov, of course, is part of the team. The 23-year-old Anton Kuzmin, a Kazakh rider, is part of the World Tour team. And Yevgeny Fedorov, and those are the only three remaining Kazakh riders on the XDS Astana team. So they parked quite a lot of their Kazakh riders on the development squad, not using the development squad in the traditional sense of the way, to get up and coming youngsters the chance to race. It's more like an general team of riders who don't have a room, don't have a place just yet on the main team. We find quite a lot of Italians, of course, on that team. Chinese riders, Kazakh riders. And as you know, in these kind of races, the development team riders can ride with the World Tour teams and the other way around. And the only races that you cannot do that is the World Tour itself. Then you have to be on the World Tour squad. We also see the national team of Azerbaijan with their national champion on the squad, with Musa Mikailadze. Got about 8 national champions on the start line, and the Asian continental champion in Yevgeny Fedorov. A little bit further back, it's his two compatriots who are doing the work. The man from Azerbaijan is Tural Izravilov. And we still have our 2 leaders, do not forget that, but they are almost caught by the peloton, as it's just straight ahead, as you can see there on this 3-lane motorway. Azerbaijan, a predominantly Muslim country. today is not the day for prayer or for going to the mosque. That is, of course, on Friday. Pace is up, 14.5 kilometers left to go. Another rider on the leaning star team that we of course know from World Tour, from Lotto for example, is Eduardo Sepulveda, the Argentinian rider, also still part of the professional peloton. Callum Johnston stepping down from Caja Rural to this team of from China. But the situation unchanged. It's the two Kazakh riders of XTS Astana doing most of the work there at the front alongside Pelou. Number 51 is their designated sprinter, but we're also, of course, looking at Aaron Gate, a man from New Zealand. Winner last year of the Boucle de la Mayenne. Hasn't won this year just yet, has been close to the win on a couple of occasions in the Santos Tour Down Under. The man there with the mullet. Hasn't raced all that much, only 17 race days so far for Aaron Gate. And the man they have in mind for the general classification is Henok Mulaveran, the man from Eritrea. Bardiani also moving to the front right now. Of course, always slightly confusing being in exactly the same coloured kit as XTS Astana. Could be quite confusing in the sprint that is coming up. We saw Marco Manenti do a few sprints in the Presidential Cycling Tour of Turkey. Filippo Cetolin was 8th on the opening stage there. Then they have Luca Covili, who's more of a climber type, of course. Alessio Martinelli. Domestique in Andrea Montagnier and Alex Tolio. That is the squad. Also more of a GC guy than a sprinter. So Marco Manenti is most likely the rider that they are going for with the Bardiani team. This is the moment that our two leaders in Perez Landaluze and Laureisa are caught, and we have a counter-attack from Uzbekistan. A counter-attack from Azerbaijan, I should say. I think this is the national champion's jersey of Musa Mikhail Sadeh. You can see not a lot of wind, but the flag is up just slightly. The flag square in Baku, one of the biggest in the world, and the flag itself, and not the one we see in the background, but we saw in the opening clip, 10 meters wide. That's one big flag. But yeah, only 10, 12 kilometers an hour wind speed today. It's not going to be a big problem. The counter-attack from the Azerbaijan rider has been neutralized. as we now also spot Tarteletto Isorex at the front. Timothy Dupont is a rider who could score in these kind of races. Of course, they were not obliged to be involved in the chase, as they had one of their riders up front. But Timothy Dupont is one of the favourites for this sprint. We see the Korean national champions jersey there, the man with the white helmet and the blue bibs on the left-hand side of your screen. One of the 8 national champions that we have. His name Yebin Yoon, South Korean national champion. We also have the Mongolian champion, Vietnam, Turkey, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Azerbaijan, and Kazakhstan in Yevgeny Fedorov, but he's wearing the jersey of the continental team. Here we are in Sumkayit. About 500,000 inhabitants. And the city was actually named after one of the Mongol tribes, the Sugaut, that conquered this place in, well, times gone by. According to local folklore, it's actually named after the river Sumkayit, but that is most likely not true, as it is a folklore. Well, we've got really wide roads until we enter the city, where, of course, inevitably the roads start to become a little bit smaller. Oh, right. Everybody trying to get into position. But it's a little bit early still at 7.5 kilometers to get those sprint trains going. It's also too late to really launch an attack, because the speed at this moment is rather high. We see the team of Solution Tech Nippo Rally moving to the front. Those very colourful jerseys. They will also be involved in the sprint. Alex Balmer, a man on good form at the moment, on the team of Solution Tech Nippo Rally. But just as I said, attacking at this moment is futile. We see that this man from the city team, the team from Algeria, is Algeria or Morocco, is going to try it. A team that started with only 4 riders. But of course, this is something that is not going to succeed. It's absolutely impossible to stay away from the peloton at this point, and he will quickly be swept up again by the bunch. This is not where it happens, of course. We have to go back to the front as we enter the streets of Sumkayit. Nickname is the City of Youth, actually. And as I mentioned, we finish outside of the Musical Drama Theatre. Well, hopefully we don't get too much drama, as on day one of a stage race like this, people are always a little bit nervous. And while I, and possibly you at home, don't know many of these riders, the same goes for the peloton. We've seen that riders come from all sorts of directions, from Hainan to Tour of the Gila, from Liège, Bastogne-Liège, traveling all around the world to Azerbaijan. And that means that also for the peloton, for the sports directors, it's sometimes hard to establish who is going to be the rider to watch. A little bit of an attack happening right there. I think that is the Terengganu team. They do have a sprinter with them in Pierre Barbier, the French rider. Also, Matthias Breinhoy can do a sprint on a good day, the Danish rider. This is all the way at the back with the Euro Cycling Trips CCN team, with a Brit on the squad there, with number 144. Not on the screen right now is Hugo Lutz Atkinson. There we go, inside 4 kilometers to go on this opening stage of the Baku-Khankendi Azerbaijan cycling race. The story of this stage was rather simple, just 4 riders in the breakaway, with Spanish rider Eduardo Perez Landaluze, Belgian rider Jorben Laurijse, Polish rider Xavier Garnek, and a Turkish rider Mehmet Kanat. Laurijse and Garnek split the points for the points classification, and Laurijse is the king of the mountains. So a very easy story of the day. 4 leaders that were caught about 10 kilometers ago. We saw a few attacks happening, including this one, but we are most likely going to have a bunch kick with the likes of Timothy Dupont, with Alexei Schnirko of Leaning Star, that is the team currently at the front. Terengganu have Pierre Barbier. We have the likes of Gleb Syriza and Aaron Gate for XDS Astana, looking at somebody like Marco Manenti for Bardiani, and then a whole range of riders that we might not expect and all of a sudden show up and win the bike race. This attack is now abandoned by the, I think, Terengganu rider, and that means that Leaning Star, who've done quite a lot of work during this stage, get to the front again in that red and white, the team of Callum Johnston, amongst others, Simon Pelot. But we're looking mostly at the man in 3rd position there, with a really sprinter physique, the man from Belarus, Alexei Schnirko. Look at how wide this boulevard is. We can have all 24 teams in a sprint train if they wanted to. There is Tartoletu Itorex with Timothy Dupont. He is not the youngest, but most definitely the big favorite today for Tartoletu Itorex, the man from Belgium, 38 years of age. He's already indicated that he's going to continue for another year. A little bit of scary situations there with Equipo-Ken Pharma and Tartoletu Itorex. Everybody trying to get into position for this sprint. 2 kilometers to go. It's such a wide road. Hopefully everybody stays in one piece here, and it's going to be a good sprint. We have this sweeping bend, and then we've got one more corner left to do, and that is inside the final kilometer at about 400 meters to go. We take a right-hand turn. From this point on, it's straight on until about 400 meters to go, with this really, really wide road, with riders moving up Fedorov there. Whoa, there is a crash happening at the front, and that is taking out quite a few riders there on that side. We saw there a little bit of shoulder barging happening, and then one rider lost his wheel and takes another few riders with him. XDS Astana still up there with Gleb Syriza, but we have to get back to the front. These riders won't lose any time, luckily for them. A little replay then of the attack, of the crash, I should say. Yeah, that's painful. But XDS Astana still in position. Timothy Dupont still in position. We still have our rider from Leaning Star in the red in position. What a corner here. I think this is Aaron Gate. What a fantastic corner by him. We're approaching that final kilometer. We're inside the finish straight. And all of a sudden, inside the barriers for the finish of this stage, XDS Astana still in pole position. There's trees there obscuring the road. And this is the sprint with the man from Leaning Star. Wow, a little bit of elevation happening. Leaning Star, it's Alexei Schnirko. It is Alexei Schnirko just crossing the line in first place. And all the work done by Leaning Star is rewarded by the man from Belarus. The GPS was slightly off, and all of a sudden we were in that final corner. But I think it's the man of leaning start who has it. Of course, the peloton in quite a few bits, but all these riders crashed inside the 3 kilometer and will not lose any time. There he is with number 51 in the red. His team did a lot of work and they are rewarded. There's Callum Johnston, by the way, number 53, the Scot. Great work there by the team. Leaning Star and Alexei Shnirko. Final was slightly obscured there by the trees, which reminds me a little bit of the of Perry Tours, where sometimes we also cannot see those final kilometers. Dupont on the wheel there of Shnirko, can't really get out. It's very close, but the man from Belarus has got it. Ahead of Syriza and Dupont. I think that is going to be the top 3, but we'll wait for confirmation, of course. First race that he can race under the Belarusian flag again. They haven't included it just yet in the graphics. And he wins. What a good moment for this man. Already won a stage in Tashkent. That race that was won by his teammate Callum Johnston. Won a stage in Alanya, the Tour of Alanya. But this officially counts as his second professional win. It's a long discussion. As the national champion from Mongolia, Batsaikan. And here's the flag and the football stadium of Sumkayit. As we wait for the official top 10, Alexei Shnirko wins it for Leaning Star, that's for sure. But we'll wait for the rest of the top 10 to be confirmed. Dupont was up there, Syriza was up there most definitely. There we go. The win goes to Leaning Star with Alexei Shnirko ahead of Syriza, Dupont, Chetolin, Pita, Finch, Manenti, Inion, Eleosigi and Yevgeny Fedorov completes the top 10, meaning that Shnirko is our new race leader with stage 2 coming tomorrow. Here we have that sprint again with Aaron Gates doing the first part of that lead out with Fedorov on his wheel and Syriza in 3rd position. That is the order of affairs for XTS Astana. Rather impressive turn of speed there by Aaron Gate. Then we lost the riders just a little bit, but we're also already inside the barriers there. All of a sudden it gets very narrow in there from the overhead shot. We can see the speed of the man in red, Shnirko and Syriza. If we get the photo finish, we'll see that it's actually rather close. But a sprinter always knows instantly. We continue with stage 3, the last stage in Bulgaria of the Giro d'Italia, with 3 riders of UAE Team Emirates leading the race, because it was also announced that Adam Yates will not start the stage. What a horrible, horrible crash yesterday with Jay Vine, Adam Yates involved, and many riders losing time. Of course, we also remembered Baku-Khankendi yesterday. We saw Jonas Vingegaard on the attack, and then this challenging final, and a man from Uruguay winning a first Grand Tour stage ever. Thomas Silva, and also the new race leader. This is the general classification here in Azerbaijan. Schnirko, of course, gets the leader's jersey ahead of Serica Dupont. The bonus seconds of the intermediate sprints have not been taken into account, because in the top 10 we should also find Jorma Laurijsen and Garnek, the 2 riders from the breakaway. Tomorrow we add a little bit more elevation, but a downhill finish as we go to Ismaili. There is Mr. Vinokurov himself, still looking race ready. I think he still does Gran Fondo stuff, or maybe even triathlon in his age group. That was something that he was rather good at. But we'll wait for an interview, we'll wait for the podiums here. Giro d'Italia starts today at quarter past 12 Central European time, quarter past 1 Bulgarian time. Also today we have the Trobro Léon with Jess Cox, one of the most awesome off-road races that we have on the calendar. 200 kilometers of Ribinou in the west of France, and of course you can also watch the World Gravel Series in Valkenburg right now. Well, that concludes stage one of this Baku-Khankendi Azerbaijan cycling race. With the winner from Belarus, his name Alexei Shnirko of the leading star team. He starts tomorrow's stage to Ismaili in the leader's jersey. Then we have more elevation and possibly a smaller peloton sprinting it out. That is live the same time tomorrow with me, Jose Bain, and tomorrow Michael Hutchinson will join me as well. Enjoy the Giro, the Trop-Roléon and the gravel, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Today, stage 3 of the Giro d'Italia, the final day in Bulgaria from Plovdiv to Sofia, 175 kilometers. Sadly, without 3 riders for UAE Team Emirates yesterday. We already saw Soler abandon and yesterday, we also heard that Adam Yates is not able to continue, and Jay Vine, of course, yesterday as well. Broken pelvis for Marc Soler, symptoms of concussion for both Jay Vine and Adam Yates. A really harsh verdict. We're also going without Santiago Buitrago, without Andrea Vendrame. So a really hard day yesterday in the Giro d'Italia. Today we continue in about an hour's time with stage 3, which looks like a sprinter stage. And of course you can catch flag-to-line coverage of that.
Welcome to the award ceremony of the first stage of the Baku-Khankendi Azerbaijan cycling race 2026. And we are coming to the podium of the day, starting with place 3. From Belgium, we like to welcome Timothy Dupont.
Third place today for Timothy Dupont. There he is, the man from Belgium.
Second place on the podium from Team Astana XDS, Gleb Şurica.
Üçüncü yerin sahibi Timothy Dupont, Belçika, Tarletto Isorix komandası. İkinci yerin sahibi Gleb Şurica.
And the winner of the day on the top place of the podium from Belarus and Team Leaning Star Alexei Snurko.
Ve ilk merhalenin galibi Leaning Star komandasından Belaruslu Alexei Snurko.
And he's a winner of the day of the Leaning Star team, Alexei Snurko.
Farayov, head of executive power of Sumgayit City, and Mr. Saib Alakbarov, Vice President of the Azerbaijan Cycling Federation and head of the organizing committee, Saib Alakbarov, handing over the medals.
Mükafatlandırma merasiminde iştirak edirlər Cənab Zakir Fərəcov, Sumqayıt Şəhər İcra Hakimiyyətinin başçısı və Cənab Sahib Ələkbərov, Baku-Khankendi Azərbaycan Velosiped Yarışının Təşkilat Komitəsinin rəhbəri, Azərbaycan Velosiped İdmanı Federasiyasının birinci vitse-prezidenti.
Third place, Timothy Dupont from Team Tartaletto Isorex. Flowers and medals from Mr. Zakir Farayov, head of executive power of Sumgayit.
Üçüncü yerin sahibi Timothy Dupont, Tarletto Isorix, Belçika. Medalı təqdim etdi Cənab Zakir Fərəcov, Sumqayıt İcra Hakimiyyətinin başçısı.
And medal and flowers to Gleb Şurica from XDS Astana team.
Ve ikinci yerin sahibi medal ve çiçek təqdim olunur Gleb Şurica Astana team.
And hand over our flowers and medals to the winner, to Alexei Shnukov from the hand of Said Alakbarov, Vice President of the Azerbaijan Cycling Federation and head of the organization committee. Thank you very much.
Ve ilk merhalenin galibi Belaruslu Alexei Shnukov, Lenin Start komandası.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Teşekkür ederim kapatlandırma merasiminde iştirak ettiğiniz için. Cenab Zakir Fərəcov, Sumqayıt şəhid icra hakimiyyəti başçısı və Cenab Sahib Ələkbərov, Baku-Khankendi Azərbaycan Velosiped Yarışları Təşkilat Komitəsi rəhbəri və Azərbaycan Velosiped İdmanı Federasiyası birinci vitse-prezidenti.
Tomorrow we'll get a first view of the leaders' jerseys on the shoulders of Shnirko of Gleb Syriza, and the king of the mountains is Yorban Reise. That will be tomorrow, 10 a.m. 9 a.m. British Summer Time. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
Liderin mavi köynəyi təqdim olunacaq.
On second place in the general classement, with start number 4, it's Gleb Syriza. And the winner of the overall leading jersey, the stage winner, the day winner, it's Alexei Shnukov.
Alexei Shnukov.
The overall leading jersey out of the hands of Alexander Vinokurov.
Olimpiya çempionu Alexander Vinokurov liderin mavi köylerini teklif eder. Alexey Shlikov, Belarus, Star komandasını izliyor.
Thank you guys.